Okay, the recording has started and a transcription is being taken of the lesson. So welcome this afternoon. We are looking at the final part of task 16, which is part 4. If you ever wanted to use the recordings a little bit quicker, if you watch the final part in each task, as you know, it will recap the whole task for you. And then if you find you need a little bit more detail or understanding or help on a certain section, you can then look at the individual parts. But otherwise, looking at the last final part will run through everything for you. You can pause them, you can rewind them, you can fast forward them to the bits that you need. So they're really useful. So today, as it says, I'm going to continue to demonstrate developing a unique idea and then moving into the final outcome. So I'm going to look at those tests and experiments that I've been doing and then start to carry on with developing that outcome idea, which I started last lesson. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it into a sketch, because I understand that not everybody will want to or can print out to test on. So sometimes we'll need to sketch. But that does then give me extra options, because I can also add in or take out things that I want along the way as I do the sketch. Okay, super. So recording has started. It seemed to have a bit of a slow moment then, and transcription is being taken. So working safely as always. Saving all of your coursework. Everything we do on the course goes towards your final moderation. So it's important that you keep all the original work and all the digital work. Finding PowerPoint on Teams. If you're working on a Mac, obviously Mac won't be compatible, but it will have its own slide format. That's why we like PowerPoint, because it's based on slides. So each page is separate. You can easily put together your portfolios at the end when you're ready to do your review, and also your final themed project and your additional tasks. So task 16, we know where to find it in the phase 1 skills builder channel, along with all the other tasks, and anything you need will be in that section. We know what the task is, the learning objectives. Please feel free to ask any questions. If there's something maybe early on you thought, oh, do you know, I never did ask about that. It's never too late. We've got all the tips, and the secret to mixed media, as you're probably finding already if you're on to tests and experiments, it's working out which combinations work for the desired effect that you're going for. It's not about having to use every art material that you own. It's about matching up so that materials work well together. And it might be that one material is more dominant than the other, that's fine, or it might be they're both quite equal. It's just working out, you know, how they work together for the effect that you're after. So we looked at mixed media, and obviously these artists here that I showed you as a starting point really show that they can go in any direction. Have people now since sort of decided on or found their artists? Because we said try and find 4 very different ones. And then the idea was to delve a bit deeper into your chosen artist. How are we getting on with that? You think so? Yeah, there's so much choice, isn't there? And, you know, there'll be probably 20 different choices that will all work just as well. It's just making the decisions as to which ones, and also what's going to suit your style and your way of working, because they might have a style, but you're not keen on the theme. So you change the theme, or you like the theme and the materials they use, but maybe not the style. So again, you just take the elements that are going to work for you. I know you found them, but yes, so many. And don't feel that you know, there's no way that you are going to, you know, even across our portfolios, we're not going to touch upon every artist that's out there. It's just a snapshot really, isn't it? And finding what works for you, that's the important thing. Great. So hopefully people are finding those. And then thinking about your theme research. So there's options there. Obviously, the use of a secondary image that's impossible would be absolutely fine. We talked about risk assessments. We've done this in a few tasks now that use photography, so we're getting really good at this, really familiar with it, and creating our own risk assessments. But more so, hopefully it means that you are thinking about and keeping yourself safe. That is, the main thing as well. So if you don't want to put your risk assessments in this document, put a note in this document and say something like, see additional task 2, page 7 to see risk assessment. So when the examiner goes to page 7, risk assessment, additional task 2, should have a heading saying task 16, mixed media, photography risk assessment. So they can easily match it up. Don't presume that they will know, because they will have never seen your work before. So we've got to make it as clear as possible for them to find things, okay? Which is why I sometimes send things back and I just say, put that heading in or split the text up, just make it as clear as possible, because I'm sure you'd rather I tell you than there'd be a problem when the examiner gets to it. So I've got your best interests at heart to really try and get these portfolios really, really clear. So theme research, I've just got there some photos of the forest, identifying which ones. It doesn't matter if you go along and do some tests and then you think, actually, I want another photo. I need something else to add into it. You can add more in, that's fine. So combinations, anybody on mixed media tests at the moment and combinations? And again, easiest route is to print your photos out in grayscale, because then it keeps them really light, and work over the top. Oh, brilliant. Are you finding some nice combinations? Again, it's difficult, isn't it? Trying to maybe make those choices, or you feel you've got to fit lots in, but actually you don't have to. And I also tend to think about maybe how, narrowing down the choices, and also maybe in which combination of layers they go. So sometimes you'll do something like I did the oil pastels last lesson, and then it got to the point I can't add any more on, because obviously the oil pastels are sort of greasy and slide around. So there's no way I was going to put my felt tip pen over the top. So looking back, I'd maybe change the format and which way round I'm going to work. This is what tests are for. And the examiner wants to always see tests. That's why we put them in. Okay, so not only does it help you build your confidence and knowledge of what you want to do, it's ticking those boxes that the examiner wants to see. That's what we are aiming for. So that's quite a nice one though. That was just literally based straight on top of the photo. I didn't add any other photos to it, but again, you can. It's just about getting combinations that are right. That one, although the photo is a little bit boring, but I looked at it looking like stripes. I thought I can do something with it looking like stripes. So I pulled out the colours. I think that works quite nicely. Someone said, I've started testing out the medias together to see how, if they layer or combine. Yeah. And again, as always, we have an idea sometimes and it just doesn't work. And we have an idea thinking, not sure, and it works beautifully. So by testing them, you see if it's going to work, you see what effects you can get, and you're building confidence all the way through. So there's no surprises when you get to do your test run and your final outcome. You're really confident with the media and the materials, even how they feel, which way round the layers will go. All of this is from tests. So more there. So I think that was the one with the tissue paper, just a close-up of bark that I had, because I thought the texture looked quite nice. So testing media, as I said, it does crisscross over a bit into working out some layouts, but that's fine. I think I was just keen to sort of have a go at both and get them moving. So this one, I just turned the photo round on its side. It's amazing how different things will look if you just turn them round, turn them upside down or on their side. And sometimes you'll get a completely different viewpoint and something will pop into your head. And I think it was at this stage I thought, I could make these look like abstract landscapes. I could take the lines I want, leave the lines out that I don't want, and see what happens really. Just enjoy it. Now, this was my favourite. This was always my favourite. And there is the photo. It actually came from a different photo to what I thought it was. It wasn't the blue sky one that I had printed out. But anyway, there it is. The photo itself, I've turned on its side. It should be the other way round. And I just love that combination of the colours. So I was thinking about colour theory. I've got my analogous colours of blue, red, purple. Then I've got that pop of white. And I liked the way I could block in. I blocked in with my watercolour paints, and then I worked over with my oil pastels. And I didn't think I would change on from that. But when I did the work last Tuesday, I did, didn't I? And actually, I've come up with something I like even more. So don't be afraid to push it that one step further and just see what happens. But they're both very different in effect. They would both still work. But again, it's down to choice, isn't it? So there's the photograph one. So we touched upon this on Tuesday, start to develop the idea. So far you will have lots of tests and experiments. You've got different photos, you've got different combination of media, and then you want to pull it together to start to get this outcome together. So I did start that on Tuesday. You could do it as simple as quickly manipulating your photographs. This one's more photographs, and then I've got a little bit of pastel working in with the blue. But these are just starting points. I actually quite like that sky. Again, you could think, well, I could bring that in, but on a different image, but the sky would work quite nicely. Textures, as I said, it does not have to end up looking like a real scene. And I'm just trying to play around. So all of these are actually to my side. A lot of these are still, if it's going to pick it up, loose sections of paper. Oh, it's not liking that. There we go. So as I said on Tuesday, all I did is I laid them down, put them in order, and then I took a photograph of them. So none of these are actually stuck down, but they're really quick ways of working out if something's going to work. And then if it is, you could easily sketch from it and then test the media. So it is quite a nice way. Some don't work at all. Some work brilliantly. I like this one. It's totally random and it's totally abstract, but it pulls together quite nicely. It's weird because we did that on Tuesday. It's that combination of the hot colours on one side and the cool colours on the other. So funny enough, I repeated that on Tuesday's lesson. So again, think about your colour theory. It will help you. This one was just a piece of green paper that was clear in the background. And then I started to put on some of the texture lines that I was seeing in the bark. And I've actually got this afternoon some coloured paper to use as a background, because I thought so often we just reach for the white paper, don't we? It tends to be what we use, but don't be afraid to start on a colour paper. I've just got like a buff colour, sort of browny colour that I'm going to trial. Might be you end up covering it all, but it doesn't matter. And it might be that you end up showing quite a bit of it come through. So this is where you're putting something together. The idea is, with all projects, we never just copy a photo, do we? We take it into further steps to develop that idea into something completely unique. There would be no point doing a task if all you did was copy a photo that was on page 1, because it shows no development, it doesn't show any tests, it just doesn't show creativity. So we always push, don't we, to get these ideas along the way. Has anybody got on to sort of ideas and putting together compositions? It's fun, it's really good fun. And again, some of these you'll notice, like this one was, I've got it here, it was one of the A5 tests. So again, that's still intact. That was one of my trials to see what the media looked like. And then I've used it to try to put together a composition. You can also, if you're able to, you can photograph your pieces and print them out. and use them almost like collage paper as well. You know, this one here would be quite nice if I took a photocopy or printed it off, that I could actually cut it up and use it as my own collage paper. It would be completely flat because it would be a printout, so it wouldn't have all the texture. But imagine, you know, when I was ripping the paper on Tuesday, I was getting that really nice soft edge. You could use it as collage paper. Someone said, I have an idea for a composition and I will need to do a risk assessment and take some photos as reference for it. Great. So already getting an idea. And as always, if you're not quite sure or you want to check, then just message us in the private chat. So I'm thinking of doing this. Do you think it's worth it? Or, you know, these photos, do you think they'll work? That's what the private chat is for. Keep that conversation going. So I said, I've experimented with bark rubbing to add some texture to a piece. Yeah, actually, you know, rubbing, even of things like taking a rubbing of coins, you get those lovely imprints, and then you can create your own papers, can't you? Even if you then cut them up. Yeah, really nice idea. Anything that's really sort of will give a texture that will take and come through a rubbing. I'm looking around my room now thinking, what could I take a rubbing of? Yeah, great ideas. Great ideas. And by what you're saying, I can see that you're thinking about it and it's working about how you're relating to the task. You can see here, I've put next to these combinations which original photos they actually came from down the bottom of the screen. And that's quite nice because it's a visual showing how the idea developed. It's showing that it did actually come through from two original ideas that are now put together. I could have even added maybe a photo of that one that was then coloured in. So I could show it came from two photos and then the development of the colour. So it's always quite nice to visually, you don't have to talk about it all the time. You can visually show where it all links and what elements came together. You know, very quick way of doing it. So again, you can see this one was from the tree and then the sunset photo combined together. And this is what you should always be able to do. You should always be able to look back through the project and trace where things have come from. So there is a link, there is a continuous link between what's happening as you move along. So there's another one that was actually from the bark. I think it's quite nice as well because sometimes we forget which, like I'd completely forgotten which photo my favourite one came from. I'd completely forgotten that photo. But then I had it recorded on here, I remembered. So it's quite nice to do that for you as well. Another one there. So I've put 3 to 6 ideas. You'll probably come up with more because you'll enjoy it so much. The problem with mine on here is I haven't yet put all my media on because obviously I've placed them together, but I still need to test the media on top of them. So I've still got some blank parts like on top of the trees here that I need to do something with, but I just wanted to give you a visual so you've got an idea. And this one still needs media on it. Otherwise, there's no point in me keeping them like this because I've got no idea what I'm going to test on them. And I need that to give me the confidence to move on to the next part. Okay. I'm going to go through these slides and then we'll go back and we'll go over to the overhead camera. So moving forward, the last steps for this project would be optional, I would say, give your piece a test run, exactly how you're going to do it. And that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. So I'm going to do my test run and I'm going to do it all as a sketch out because I know that I'll want to go a bit larger for my final piece. And yes, I could photocopy larger, but actually I want to do a drawn by hand version. So an A5 test run is quite nice so that you've checked everything along the way. So when you come to your outcome, you know which order you're doing things. You know, if you say need to do a watercolor wash in the background before anything else, you know to do that. You know that if you're putting your fine liner on, you're going to do it last. So you've got all the knowledge. So that's why I always say it's a good idea. Not essential because not everybody will want to, but it's quite good. Again, does not have to be a rectangle, could end up as a square. You could even go the George Braque style and end up with an oval. That'd be absolutely fine. His was like an oval with a bit of a frame, wasn't it? So you could have like a paper frame around it that's part of the design. So then you would have your outcome. So produce the outcome using your chosen mixed media selection. Difficult to say a size because some people might want to go kind of A3 because of the media. If you're working in quite chunky collage and pastels, something like that, it might suit you better. I'd go no larger than A3 only because of time, but generally probably be around A4. Okay. So size is up to you, but the larger you go, the more time it will take, and you know what your schedule's like and how much time you've got to allocate for it. Okay. Think about what will suit the piece and your way of working best. Because remember, we're all looking at my study now. You can't tell how big that is, can you, unless I told you? And actually, it's still only the A5 version. So when you do put it in your document, it doesn't make a huge difference to the presentation, if you know what I mean. But obviously the difference will be in how much time it took you, or if you found it easier working on a smaller or larger scale. That will be the difference. Okay. And then we've got an evaluation. I'll tell you what, I'll pop these into the chat because I've been forgetting to do that, haven't I? So 3A, developing your ideas. There we go. And then we've got 4A. So that's optional. I mean, you don't always need absolutely everything that I put in these lessons, but I'm just trying to give you good coverage. If you end up with a really strong phase 1 portfolio because you've been really thorough, got your visual language in, got your artist analysis in, all those crucial points that I'm always talking about, it will put you in a better position for phase 2 because you'll be under less pressure to have to cover lots and lots of gaps that you missed in phase 1. Does that make sense? So you know that you've got a good portfolio done. So then we've got evaluation. So this would be for sort of looking back at the outcome. So which artists were you inspired by? You could do that with a visual as well. You can actually show a mini version of the artist style next to it. How did you use materials and media to good effect? So you've been working out good combinations. What did you trial to make the decision on what would work best? Again, you could visually show mini versions of those little tests that you did. And then maybe, you know, put smiley face on the favourite one with just a few notes. Number 4, why did you choose the theme and outcome for your artwork? That's totally your opinion. And number 5, this always happens, and it's not because things have been a disaster, but always as artists, everything we do, we always then think, oh, next time I would do this, or if I did it again, I'd do it larger. Because we're always, aren't we? If you give me a thumbs up or a smiley face if that's the case, we're always thinking of how we would do it again, aren't we? And not that we need to, but there's always a thought, you know. As soon as I'd done that piece last week, I regretted putting in the pink pen, didn't I? So if I was doing it again, I would know to avoid the pink pen and move on. And all that also shows is that you are learning and you are completely understanding what's going on and why you're making those changes and why you've got that thought for next time. So it's always good to have your evaluation next to the photo, like this slide here, next to the photo of the final piece, so the examiner can read the evaluation whilst viewing the final outcome. Okay, and you can do just in bullet points. We never need lots of writing, but the writing is those things that unless you told us, I just wouldn't be able to guess. I wouldn't know what you were thinking. So it's those points that we are after and how you're reviewing your work. And then pop in, again, we are building up a really nice resource of all these different media materials in each project that we're using. So take a photograph of the tools, media and equipment that you've been using. So you can just lay them on the desk, take a photograph, and then briefly explain which ones you like using best, because there's probably one or two that you kept going back to, and say why. You know, why did they keep coming through? Why were they good? Or could be that you kept going back to collage and ripping and tearing and papers. So what was it that was working? This is a great snapshot in each task, because then the examiner will see a different use of media and materials in each task. And they want to, one of the assessment criteria is using a range of media materials and techniques. So this really shows them. Okay, so that's where we are today. That is the end of task 16. So we're going to go over to the overhead desk, just capturing these, and we'll start with the tests, moving into the compositions, and I'm going to start sketching out an A5 test ready. Okay, as I'm changing over, are there any questions that have arisen? So changing cameras. It's a really fun project, this one, I find. It's really exciting with lots of different opportunities, I think, really. So just changing cameras. So I've got here laid out on the desk, can't quite fit them all in. Do you find even though when your desk gets bigger, you still feel you need more space? So I've got, what have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 8 tests. So I've got a pretty good range. Just bring those ones up a little bit. Of different media, different ideas, different tests. This one was moving more into composition, but there is still opportunity for more composition. No, I know, I always feel I don't have enough space. And then I've still got stuff to the side of me, all extra photos there as well. So compositions would be taken from what you're doing here. So these tended to be my favourites, but I do still feel need, because they're only from one photo, I want to bring something else in, but I'm not sure what it might be. It might be something like this, maybe this tree here. And I did like the way that I got these faint lines come through from the small branches of the tree. Quite, see, that one went like that originally, had a bit of a pattern on the bark, which I made with more contrast of the light and dark, but then obviously turning it around. So composition wise, I'm still going to have a look, and I'm going to sketch these today. So again, we've got a different format for people that are also sketching, because you might just prefer it. Because the thing with a photocopy is that you will always get the print underneath, which you can never rub out. I've also got some, as I said, buff coloured paper, so I might try that for some of the tests. So if you're doing compositions by sketching, again, they don't have to be perfect. They're just giving you enough information to work from. That's one that I did test already. So I did take it from here, but as you can see, I took that line from up there. That's quite nice actually, because I might then bring that tree in. So I'm just going to try it. So this is still kind of composition stage. Just grab a pencil that you'll be able to see. 4B, that'd be nice and dark. So I'm wondering if maybe I can blend this in somewhere along there. That's quite overpowering, isn't it? So I probably wouldn't go with those colours if I'm trying to get that tree to show up. This one, I really love this now. Really love it. But I'm wondering, do you think, just looking at it today, that's a bit in the way there, isn't it? What do you think? That tree, that branch there. Someone said, I was thinking of sketching because the kind of paper that is usually printed on might buckle under water. Great point. Yes. Because if you're using this, mine's done exactly the same here. This is on printer paper and you can just see it started to ripple. Can you see the paper? So yeah, if you are using printer paper, it can sometimes not quite give you the desired effect and it could crinkle because of the damp. So yeah, that is a good way, a good idea to sketch as well. But what do we think? Do we agree? Do we think that looks a bit in the way today, doesn't it? And I'm wondering if I take that out and I might then use some of these that go up here, then I could put my little tree on that side in the composition. What do you reckon? Shall I try it? So again, if I looked back through my project, I would be able to find all of these elements. They do not just crop up from fresh air. They're all actually there. So I'm just going to go on white purely because of showing up on camera for you. So I like to go, if I've got an A5 paper, I'll sketch it A5 as well because it's a lot easier to just to sketch out because I'm going same size, same size. So at the moment, we've got some kind of background here. I might end up sketching it out and then realizing I quite like it with all the faint lines underneath. You never know. So I've kind of got the green that's happening here. And then I've got this here. So the nice thing about sketching, yes, you can then choose the paper that you're working on because it's not going to be printer paper. And again, that might be part of, you know, the style. I've got this paper here. I do love a bit of parcel paper because that's a bit textured, isn't it? So that's quite nice. I'm not going to spend too much time sketching it out because it is just a test, really. It's about putting composition together. Okay. And again, I can rub out, I can choose. I could even make a little bit up if I wanted to. Oh, show rule of thirds. Yeah. I put, ooh, that's, I go that way. That's not far off, is it? This one. But yes, I could even sketch it and then I could crop it, couldn't I? If I decided actually I want this all brought up a little bit more. Exactly. So you've actually got a lot more choice of what you want to do. Now, I quite like that tree like that. I'm wondering, I'm just going to take that up a little bit rather than completely straight across. I think that would be a bit nicer. So already, as the artist, I have creatively changed that little bit. Okay. I like the way that these go in. It's funny, isn't it? Because also sometimes if you take out the wrong things, you lose some of the magic of what you liked before, because we all looked at that and said, oh, it looks a bit magical, doesn't it? So you have got to be a little bit careful to think, well, what actually is it that's giving that feel? And I've got to make sure I don't completely take it out. So I'm just going to, for the moment, I'm going to take out this branch. I'm going to put in this tree. I'm going to set it. I'm thinking about rule of thirds now, roughly. I set it about there, that might work. Now at the moment, now already I think I can see I need to go up a bit to get a silhouette. I could block it in even more. At the moment, I'm just going to do a rough outline shape because I'm not quite sure if I'm going to fill it in or if I'm going to keep it quite open like that one. So it gives me options. Because again, this is testing composition. Okay. I also might want, let's go back and have a look at those lines, because these lines that were really faint, that were actually on the original photocopy, might be quite nice, that they look like hills in the background. And again, that's only just popped into my head now. And that happens, doesn't it? We'll be drawing and then we'll go, oh, I've got another idea. Oh, I like that. Perhaps would, yeah, sorry, I was just reading that last message. Now, that is starting to build some depth up. And I quite like the way it's like where you get sort of like patchwork looking fields, those different lines. So I could put a couple of them in. Oh, quite like that. Okay. And then maybe just bring in some here. What do you reckon? So as a trail in my sketchbook, I could show these two original photos. That one was actually that way round in real life, that tree. It was that big photo. I could then show how I added media to those. Yeah, it does add more depth, doesn't it? I can then show how I combined these two together and I've got something totally unique. That's what we are after, aren't we? Okay, so now I would look back at my tests and I'd think, right, which combinations worked best? Yes, I'm loving the oil pastel because I do love the bright colours. Definitely not the pink pen, definitely not the pink pen. But what I'm thinking, I want something fairly vibrant, but I also want something that I could mix, and I don't want paint. What I think I'm going to go for is pencil, because I do think pencil can be a bit underrated and I could actually get some nice effects and blending, and I think it would work well. Now the stripes I might put up here. I'm going to try that. So the sky is totally not a real sky and it still keeps that feeling of abstract. Okay. So I know that I need to do my pencil first, because if I do my oil pastel first, what am I going to struggle with that happened with this one? I'm just going to grab my pencil sharpener. Again, need more room on my desk. Pencil sharpener, where is it? There. And I'm going to pick out all of these colours. Yeah, you remember I covered it quite a lot in oil pastels, which I knew really I shouldn't have done. They'll make it too slip slidey for me to get anything else over the top. So I know I'm going to start with my pencils first. I'm just getting all my warm colours out because I want to put those stripes in. So I'm just seeing everything that I've got I can work in. I have got a white pencil. I doubt if it's going to show up. So what I might also do is leave some white. Now I'm thinking in my head, I'd wish I'd done it on the buff paper, because my white, let's just see, may have shown up a little bit. Let me just test it. Yeah, it does show up. Wish I'd done it on that. But there we go. As I said, your mind is always thinking, isn't it, about the next step. So it might be, if I did my A5 test, I'll do it on that paper. This is still step 3 section, putting together a composition. Okay. I mean, I obviously won't be showing you a final outcome, because you'll know that the final outcome, what it will be. What's important is you understand how you got there, so you can build your same steps. Okay. You understand how you're going to build this and put it all together. So I'm going to put in all these stripes that we had. So the key was they were a little bit random. They weren't all the same thickness. So I'm going to go. If I find it easier, I might decide to turn my hand around so that I can work more comfortably. I quite liked that they weren't perfect and all being precise. I liked the randomness of it. So I'm going to try to recreate that. I might just find that I'm going to do the tree, this main tree, in the oil pastel. I can always do it in pencil and then work over it in oil pastel, but I wouldn't be able to work over it the other way around because the oil pastel just won't let me. I like soft pastel as well. It's just that they can smudge, and I do like the vibrancy that you get with oil pastel. I love the strong colours, and I think that's what I'm going for with this piece. Again, you might not be, you might be going for very soft colours. I'm not worried about going over the edge there because when I photograph this, I can crop it down after. But if it's going to help speed things up and make it more comfortable to work on, that's great. I think I've got my colours right. I'm happy with the colour combination. And it'd be interesting because if you remember, I did the tree orange, but because the photocopy was underneath, it was very difficult, wasn't it, to actually get that showing because it kept getting darkened by the print. Has anybody else got any other questions or observations? And again, if you've just joined us recently, please check, because everybody is set up with what we call a private chat, which will show in your chat box on Teams. And I will have sent you a message saying hello and what to do. So give me a reply, and that's where all the work is sent and where we keep an ongoing conversation with how you're getting on and what you're doing and posting work. So it's a really important chat. So I said the lines will perhaps look like tall trees in the background. Oh, that's an interesting thought, actually, because I did that, didn't I, in this one? Hey, come full circle. Yeah. Oh, and these remind you of the Northern Lights. Yeah, Northern Lights are fantastic, aren't they? They're magical. So this is still 3A section where you are developing compositions and layouts. Some you might have half done because you've kind of made a decision to stop and move on to another. Some you might feel you just want to fully finish because you really got that idea. Yeah, I quite like that. Let's go a bit stronger. Red is a really strong colour. You don't need much of it, and if you're not careful, it can overpower. So I'm just going a bit easy on the red, probably bringing in a bit more orange. I'm going to turn it round in a minute. We'll have a little look. And it's funny how, although things can be totally abstract, it still gives a feeling of a sky, doesn't it? Because our minds are clever in that they kind of fill the gaps, don't they, with what we're thinking and what we know it kind of should be. Let's just spin it round. Yeah, so again, when I crop it digitally into my document, it's going to just clean it all up as well. And that's going to start to look really nice, isn't it? I'm pleased with that. I'm really pleased with that. And I had no idea, because I quite like to work so that I'm thinking along the way, because I know that that's what you'll be doing. So I don't kind of have, I don't have a secret plan here on the side, knowing exactly, because I want you to see that your way of thinking is exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking at the process as I go through. So then I think I'm still going to bring pencil down so far, but I liked these colours, which worked well here. I'm wondering whether to go more darker greens in here. I'll start light first, just to be careful. So I'm going to give everything what we call a base coat. I'm even going to go over the tree, because I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do the tree kind of delicate. Oh, I wish I'd rubbed that out first. or if I'm going to do it as a block silhouette. So if I do the green first, I will be able to do either, because it's a lot easier if I'm doing hundreds of single leaves dotted. It's easier that I've got my background down first. Otherwise I'll be trying to work around 100 different leaves to put a background in. Okay, now I think what I want to do is have those quite solid and with a bit of 3D. So I'm going to start to work in. So I would be working pretty much exactly the same for my A5 test and my final outcome. The only difference is I will be more confident on that outcome because of all these tests that I've done. Okay. Just going to do a bit of tonal work there. And I'm going to bring in a bit of blue as well. I'm thinking of those analogous colours. I'm going to keep lighter at the bottom and darker at the top. I'm just going to be careful of darker blues that I bring in. But I like the idea that these fields, or what I've created as fields, are quite separate in the background, like a patchwork. So I'm trying to give them their own individual section of colour. Just looking on camera, that's coming together nicely. So I've definitely got mixed media because I will have pencil and oil pastel. I think I'm going to do the tree in fine line pen. I just got the urge to do that. I just think it will just give it another depth. What do you think? Do we agree on the fine line pen for the tree? So it'll be very much like, where have I put it? The test one. I quite like that will be quite a delicate. Yeah, I think it'll be different because everything else will be quite heavy and blocked. And I just think maybe just that a softer finish on the tree will just set it all off. Okay. So I'm just going to. So give me a thumbs up that you can see how I got to this point, because that's what you'll want to know. How do we get to this point? Where do we take our inspiration from? And the other thing, and I haven't shown a specific artist on mine, but also taking inspiration from your artist. I quite like the bright and bold, and I quite like the David Whiteman that had those blocks of colour, you know, with the wallpaper. Yeah, so don't forget those two. Because if I try to do a style, you're all going to have such different ideas. I just won't match that. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. It's not a bad start. So then I've got my oil pastels. Let's grab the oil pastels. And again, need a bigger desk. So these I know because I used them on Tuesday and I'm really happy with what I brought in. And I think they'll be a nice bold addition to the front. And I can also maybe tap back into maybe some of the background. So I could, for example, if I wanted maybe a bit of a stronger red, I might push in some of the oil pastels just to lift it a little bit. Because I'm okay now because I've got my pencil underneath. And I might find I just want a bit of a stronger orange in sections. Okay. So we had this really nice lime green on Tuesday. And even within that, I might struggle to get my pen over that, but I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it and see. Even within that, I was still putting a little bit of texture because I'm going to blend in some blues, and I had a little bit of white, which I quite liked as well. Building up to, oh, I can't wait to put the tree in because that tree wasn't as vibrant as I had before. Then I had that nice sort of icy blue, which I quite liked. That's picking up with the blue that I put in there. And I did put in a bit of white. I find the white or a lighter colour helps if you want to blend, because it kind of will mix those colours together quite in a subtle way. I've just got to put some of that tree in. I want to put some of that tree in before we go. So I've got, again, you can test on a bit, but that's a nice bright orange. Now, I might find it disappears when it gets up to here, and I might have to rethink it, but let's just see. I'm going to go careful first of all, because I still want to put these textures on it. So I'm not going to go too heavy. Okay. And I've just thought I could maybe highlight with a little bit of blue, because we know that blue is the complementary colour to orange. Okay. Right, you might be thinking, oh, that was a disappointment, but let me build it up. So I'm going to get a little bit of red, because that looks very brown there because of how, because of the photocopy being underneath. The red's not working. Again, you know I love it when it goes wrong, because it's real, isn't it? And sometimes you think, oh, that didn't quite. So I'm going to go for the blue then. Let's see what the blue will do. Let's start with the light blue. Too light. Right, let's go a bit bolder on the blue. Let's try turquoise. Oh, not bad. Right, let's get that one started. I just liked those lines that I was doing on the edge of the tree. Not bad, not bad. Okay, I'm going to work a light, work an orange, yellow into that, and just see if I can start to blend it. Just looking at the time. Right, it's coming together. See, by going over with that yellow, it then kind of fills all those gaps and starts to give a more solid finish, but without overpowering. Oh, that's quite nice. That's actually not bad at all. Let's have a look. Yeah, what do we think? Let's put a bit more into here. Let's grab the white as well. I so wish I'd done it on that buff piece of paper. So again, you might switch papers if you're going to do the A5 test. You know exactly everything else you're going to do, but that would have looked quite lovely, I think, wouldn't it? And it would have made my white highlights stand out even more, wouldn't it? So this is what I was saying about, you always think of something else to do afterwards. Okay, let's get some, I'm just going to get a bit of a stronger green to bring in here. I almost want a bluey green. Let's see what I've got. So I quite like that edge. And you don't have to, don't feel you have to make it look like it's full of different media. they might be very subtle, that it might not be a massive look of how the two media, because if you looked at these two quickly, you might not realize that it's two different media. So don't be thinking, oh, well, they don't look that much different. If you've got two in there, you've got mixed media. Okay. Right, I'm just going to see if I can put, oh, I know that my black fine liner is probably going to be hiding. Oh, no, got it. Okay, now I'm going to put black pastel in the trunk because I know otherwise I'm not going to be able to get that over. Oh, actually. Okay, so going to go back, have a look at this study, and I'm going to try, I like that study with the softness. Just try and work out the same. So I'm just being really gentle, just trying to get the splits of the, and I'm not going to stick too rigidly to the outline because trees don't always go like that. And just work that in over the top. I'm not going to count every single twig and trunk and leaf and everything. I'm just trying to give the impression of, whoa, what do we think? What do we think? And again, that just popped into my head. I thought, actually, that would be quite nice to mix together. And I can also sort of put some contrasting sections of it. All trees have a shape, don't they, depending on what they are. And that's really what you're trying to do. I mean, this tree, when I photographed it, I think it was sort of more winter, had lost all of its leaves. So obviously the shape of the twigs were all showing through. Just desperate to get this on before the end of the lesson. Okay. So you can see by me doing the green background, I know that I don't have a white gap showing behind it, yeah? So that's why I put my base coat down first. Whoa, what do we think? Yeah, it is effective, doesn't it? I still need, I'm looking at it on camera and I can still see this looks a bit pale here, doesn't it? So this needs work. Again, this is a step 3 test. So I've got my journey, I've got the photos I've worked on. So they were original photos, I've then worked on them, I've changed the colour, I've put those two together, picking the bits I like, making it a bit of imagination and creativity in the background here with the hillside and changing the colour. So I have created a unique composition. So I could then take that, somebody else said, you could even look before you do your final outcome, you might say, well, actually, do I want to crop it down even more? Would it be better when I do my test run or my outcome that I crop in about here? That might look nicer. Again, you could do that really quickly with your photos, couldn't you? Photograph as it is, copy and paste it 3 times and try some different variations of how it might look. What would it look like if I went really zoomed in? So again, that, you know, that take 30 seconds to crop it digitally. So you've got all your information ready for your test run, be nothing new, and then your outcome. Yeah, makes sense? Has that been useful? I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Okay. So this is your step 3. This is getting together compositions. These are your tests, okay? So tests are based on sort of initial photos and sketches. All right, super. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Hope you have as well. So Tuesday we'll start to look at task 9. I'll post out the assignment sheet into the channel this afternoon, but it's in there already. It's in the phase 1 channel, and look forward to seeing everybody then. Okay, take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Okay, cheerio, everybody. Bye.